Now that we're in the final stretch of the 2024 election cycle, kind of want to check in and talk about how we're feeling leading up into the final days of the Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. I guess this is the best election we could come up with scenario here. Joining me to talk about all of this is a friend of the show, EK Powell, the host of the political account What's Good English. EK, how you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I hate these choices, but I'm doing all right as well as I could possibly be considering.
Right. I mean, look, Kamala Harris, not the number one choice that I would have had for the top of the Democratic Party, but better than Joe Biden. As far as I'm concerned, I was a very big advocate of Joe Biden stepping down and somebody else taking his place. So now that we're in kind of like the finish lines here, I think depending on who I talk to, everyone kind of has a different version of how they're perceiving this election. It's not really as straightforward as past matchups with Donald Trump. So, I've been talking at a great, length about things that I'm, like happy about when it comes to like what might come from the Kamala Harris administration, things that I'm kind of like weirded out by as far as choices that she's been making on the campaign trail. But let me just start off with where you're at right now. Like, how are you feeling going into this election? What's one of the things that you've been focusing on?
Um, like Kamala, so it's I still don't know about Kamala. That's the thing. Like, I think she's a better option than Biden. I mean, she's
Yeah.
not freaking 112 years old. So but like she's also very much just like generic Democratic candidate for president. And like it's hard to pin down where she stands. Everybody and their mother has said, "Oh, I know Kamala. I'm a close personal friend of Kamala." Like, like I remember when Kamala did this, whatever. But like nobody can actually say what Kamala is gonna do. You hear Trump
No.
talk about, "Oh, her father's a Marxist professor," and like that don't mean shit, dude. She was a fucking prosecutor, and like in Kamala, like, I don't think too many Marxist professors' children I don't think too many Marxists who are following some Marxist ideology go off to become criminal prosecutors. Like, so, like, I think we are, I wish it's kind of an insult to me because, like, I am far left. And like when he says some shit like kind of like, dude, come on, come on, that's insulting me. Like I think housing should be free. I think food should be free. I think healthcare and education should be free. We are not the same.
No, not
So
even a little bit.
yeah. Um, but yeah, like you look at her policy with like, Gaza, Palestine, Lebanon now,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, this is just more of the same. Like you
Yes.
look at the Democratic National Convention speech and the debate where she had that same line about having the most lethal military in the world.
As Commander in Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
And I'm like,
Hmm.
bro, who are we beefing with like that? Like, who is like nobody wants to see. I don't care what part of the political spectrum you are on, like the hardcore Trump people, like the hardcore left people. None of us want to have troops go off and fight another forever war. Like, we just got out of
No,
one of those. We don't want that shit to happen. Nobody wants that shit to happen.
no.
Why are you courting that shit? Even Donald fucking Trump is not courting that shit.
Yeah, actually, let me speak to that really quick because that is something that we've seen a flip on the right. We have seen over the years, I think, like as it was, the George Bush era, the Mitt Romney era, the John McCain era, that the Republican Party was always the hawkish party, the party that wanted to antagonize, that wanted to go to war, basically. And now, you know, I don't really think that Donald Trump's this anti-war candidate. I think that's way,
Yeah,
way blown out
absolutely
of
not.
proportion. But what I do think is true is that his base has become more anti-war. There are more of the regular, average, everyday Republican voters who are keep kind of going with that thought process of America first, to which I think is, kind of like coded in, great replacement theory kind of stuff. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they're also echoing the ideas that they do not want these foreign interventionist wars. I hear that quite a bit from people on the right. So it's
Yeah.
odd to me that Kamala Harris would want to actually kind of center herself around wanting more foreign conflicts when it's not popular anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you look at the people with the absolute worst takes on Israel, like you look at Lindsey Graham, who's saying, "Oh, they should just nuke Gaza, whatever." Like, he's not advocating for us to do shit. He's not saying, he's like, "Hey, we don't want to be in this, but you can do whatever the hell you want. Just don't fucking put us like, don't have our military come do that shit for you." You know, you look at the churches and everything like that. They're advocating for, you know, the destruction of Gaza, the eradication of the Palestinians and everything. They're advocating for Israel to do those things, not for our army to go in there and help them out. Like, nobody wants like to send troops anywhere except
No.
for maybe Kamala Harris, dude. Like, what like, I mean, 2 times. It's not a fluke, not a coincidence. The first time she said it, I was like, okay, that seems like it was a speech that was written for Joe Biden, and people just like deleted a few deleted everything that Joe Biden would have said about himself, and then inserted, you know, some anecdotes about Kamala's childhood when she was doing the DNC speech. But then to hear it again at the debate, like, damn, is this really your thing? Like, is this really a thing that the Democrats is just all gonna be behind? Like, I can't get behind that.
No, and kind of just playing off that a little bit. We saw recently in a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris where, forgive me, I forget the interviewer's name, but the interviewer asked her, like, who is the number one adversary of America right now? And her response was Iran. And that's just
Yeah,
baffling to me. Just baffling to me. And she was saying that they have American blood on their hands. Like, I'm pretty sure they just laid out an attack on Israel, yes, but not a single civilian was hit from this attack. So it was very precise. They went after military installations. I just, I'm very caught off guard by the almost neocon approach that Kamala Harris is taking to this election, embracing uh the endorsement of Dick Cheney, who may just be top five, one of the worst human beings still alive on Earth. I just like I don't know how you come to that conclusion where you're gonna hear Dick Cheney endorse you and you're like, you know what? I like that. I need to talk about that more. I need more people to
yeah.
know that Dick Cheney endorsed me. Who is that winning over, EK? Who is
Uh,
that winning over?
I have not the foggiest of ideas who that. Like, definitely no Democrat is gonna look at Dick Cheney like, oh, thank God we got Dick Cheney. I was worried, you know what I'm saying? I was praying that we could get Dick Cheney over, you know, to the side and break, like, come the fuck on, bro. Like, even like the Republicans is like, dude, this, like, y'all didn't like that dude either. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, so let me kind of just go off of this now. I am seeing basically from in my own life as well as like people that I, interact with online, having, plenty of people that we interact with on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, covering politics on social media. No one seems to be super excited about this election in the way that they even were a month ago. I think
Yeah.
post DNC, the enthusiasm has dropped again. And I think, in my personal perspective, I think that is because that they've stopped talking about the issues that people, who are in the left base, really care about. Kamala has made a hard pivot to the right. And I'm worried now that that's going to lead to maybe her losing to Donald Trump. I mean, where you're at right now, do you think that Kamala still has a good chance of winning this election, or do you think she's kind of setting herself up for failure?
Yeah, so like, it's okay. So like, I allowed myself to feel hope for, like, I think that magical like 2, 3 week period
Yeah,
when, you know, Biden steps down and then Kamala just slides in there, and I'm like, okay, this could work. And then the
yeah,
DNC came, and like, just all of the hope just evaporated. Just
yeah,
like somebody just opened up the door, and like the hope just like rushed out as quickly as it possibly could. And then, you know, as things have progressed, you know, you had Waltz talking about like basically giving Israel the okay to like do an attack on Iran's nuclear weapons,
yeah.
and like with that, I'm just like, dude, I don't like, what, 70, 80% of the Democratic Party is against this. It's just like
Right. Yes.
absolutely against this. And, you know, but they're just going with it anyway. Like, I before Biden stepped down, I was in the process. I was writing up a script for a video saying that, you know, if Biden manages to win, being this disliked, being, you know, somebody that is this much against his party, then like that's basically the end of democracy as well, because it's going to show the Democrats, like it's going to show all the establishment, the Democratic establishment, that hey, it doesn't matter how unliked the person that we're running is, like is as long as we're running against one particular type of lunatic, we can still win regardless of what the people actually care about. And that's just going to be every single election going forward, which you can already see, parts of that with like Democrats funding, different far right candidates who are like absolutely insane, because it's easier if, they fund that person's campaign, like, and then that person like beats out the more like the
Moderate.
non-ridiculous, the more
Yeah.
moderate, non-ridiculous sounding Republican. And then they can then beat that Republican come, election time, because like they just happen to be like centrist enough to just eke by and nothing ever changes. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm feeling with, and like because of like with the way it is now, like all the hope is gone, like pretty much looking at how against, and it, just like on the issue of like Palestine or like this whole border situation, like how
Yes.
both Kamala and Waltz are for that draconian border bill, where like nobody actually wants to fix immigration, like they just
No, they
want
just want
to
to
like,
demonize people coming across the
yeah.
border.
Exactly, exactly. And like the border bill isn't going to do anything. Like people still gonna find a way, like they're still gonna manage a way to get up in here. People are still gonna blame immigrants for everything. You're not actually fixing anything with that. You're just trying to appease people that you probably shouldn't be rocking with. Like, let's be
In
real. You should not be fucking with these people. Yet you're trying to win these people over.
No, I think one of the biggest miscalculations that I've seen, because it looks to me that the Democratic voter base, which is very broad, you have people who are very centrist all the way over to people who would refer to themselves as communists, but they'll still show up and vote for Democrats in some elections. It's a really broad base, but I think that it's been moving more towards the left since Joe Biden's been elected. And instead of reckoning with that and kind of adjusting to that and like pitching to those people, it feels like they're trying to overcorrect and go even more to the right than even Joe Biden was. Like, that's what I cannot get over. Her
Yeah.
campaign is actually to the right of Joe Biden. Joe Biden is already a more conservative Democrat. Like I'm baffled sitting here
Yeah.
watching this election take place, because I'm like, who is advising Kamala Harris into making these decisions? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, do you want to lose this election? It feels to me like you're trying to convince your own base not to show up.
Yeah, like it's weird. It's like this is the furthest left that Biden has ever been, which is still slightly left of center, maybe dead center, like who knows?
Yeah.
But like still very right. Like, and then you have Kamala just like talking about having a Republican on her or in her
Her
committee or
cabinet.
whatever,
Yeah.
her cabinet, yeah. And just like and just having like a more conservative, more right-leaning take on, especially like foreign policy. Um, like one thing I don't want to say that everything that Biden did was bad. Biden
No,
actually did
no.
a lot of good. Like, and I don't think everything Kamala is or, I don't think everything Kamala is saying or whatever or doing is like bad, but like
No.
on the specific issues where it's like, yo, this has potential to like really wreck shit for us. Like maybe not immediately, but like in the future, like this is just gonna completely wreck us. It's gonna cost a ton of money, put us in a bad situation, not set us up for success. Like, and it's like you're just like, whatever. Like I can maybe get some Republicans like on my side with this. Like I think I heard somebody suggest that, as a black woman running for president, like people automatically think she's going to be way more left than she actually is. So maybe she's trying to hop out and like do a little bit of signaling saying, "Hey, I'm not like this leftist that you all are trying to say that I am. I'm not in this box that people are trying to put me in." Like, but at the same time, it's turning people off. Like, me in particular, like I'm not a Kamala vote. Like, I live in a blue state. I live in Washington. Like,
Yeah.
my vote is not going to matter. I could write down Tony the Tiger on as a write-in candidate and still be able to sleep, not worrying that I wrecked the entire situation for Kamala.
Right.
Kamala doesn't need my vote out here. Um, so like, but you know, a lot of people who live in some of those swing states are not Kamala votes. And like, you know, like
Yeah.
me personally, I think, you know, if you live in a solidly red or a solidly blue state, I think you should vote for the Green Party.
Yeah.
Like they are the only party that has the potential at hitting 5%, which means like they'll get guaranteed funding in the next election cycle. They'll also get a refund of everything they spent this cycle up to, I think it's like the $10 million like is how much they would have gotten this cycle,
Right.
which you know, which could have an effect, which that could like allow them to actually spend money to do some door knocking and campaigning and maybe get like a green senator or something like that. Who knows? But like, I think the pro-Palestinian vote, if you are absolutely not going to vote for like Kamala Harris, I think the best vote that you could like the most strategic vote that you could do would be to vote for the Green Party. You know, if you live in a swing state and you don't want to vote for Kamala, I would, you know, like you to reconsider a little bit. But like ultimately, if Kamala Harris has not won your vote, that is on Kamala Harris.
I
And like,
agree. I agree with that.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's clear how she could win some of the people who are not rocking with her right now.
Yeah.
And you know, like she doesn't even have to do anything as far as policy goes. She's not the fucking president, you know? Like, but she could just say, like, hey, you know what? Like
But
she could
words matter, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
She could say, hey, you know, I would possibly consider doing an arms embargo. That goes a long way.
It goes an incredible way, and that's something that I've been harping on quite a bit, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that the rhetoric is absolutely everything. You are an inch away from the most powerful position in human history. Your words are policy. Like you have to know that. I mean, that's why we're talking about her calling Iran, the biggest threat to America, because that's the potential future president and the current vice president. That's a big deal when she makes that statement, which is why any statement that she makes is a big deal. So people are like, oh, she's the vice president. She can't really do anything right now. What do you mean every sentence she speaks is a big deal? It's like that's the one thing that I try to drive home all the time when we're having these conversations. But EK, just final thoughts here. Like, what's like, I guess, like the last thing that you're thinking about right now when it comes to elections? I know you and I were talking before air about, down ballot stuff in your own state. What are some of the things that you're thinking about, maybe besides just the top of the presidential list when it comes to this election here?
Yeah, so like for my state in particular, like I was telling you before, I have four ballot measures that are going to be on my ballot. So one of them has to do with like how gas like is, well, it's not even a gas tax. It has to do with how some of our biggest polluters in Washington state have to bid over, like I can't remember the exact thing, but um like what it amounts to is something that money that we've been using to like fund transportation to give everyone under 19 years of age free transportation and go anywhere in the city they want to, like
Yeah.
on public transport for free. That's going to be like on my ballot basically. There's a capital gains tax which affects like 4,000 people out of the millions of people that live in Washington state. That's going to be on the ballot because they're trying to get that away. There are two other ballot measures that are going to be there. So like you have to like the only way you are throwing away your vote, like people tell you you're throwing away your vote if you vote for a third party, if you do a write-in candidate. Like I think the only way that you are 100% throwing away your vote is if you are not voting, because
True.
something yeah, something that you either like or dislike, like that is happening in your state, your city, your state, whatever, is probably going to be on your ballot somewhere, because like your local state elections, like those have a much like higher bearing about your day-to-day life. Like they're going to have the quickest like and most direct change on your day-to-day life. So like I would encourage you to look at what is actually going to be on your ballot. Like the president for a lot of people isn't going to matter too much. You
Yeah.
know, they can do some shit, like it's like some crazy shit can happen. They can do some crazy shit, but like what is happening in your city, your town, whatever, that is going to be on your ballot. That's why it's so important. If you want to write in free Palestine, I would prefer you not do that and vote for green. I don't, like I don't particularly like Jill Stein,
Not even what
but
it's about.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
not about Jill Stein being president, which would be like completely terrible because she has no representation in the House. She's got no representation in the Senate.
right.
Any executive order she would try to do would get blocked by one of those federal judges that Trump appointed, most likely. The
Probably.
Supreme Court is super conservative, so it would get kicked to them, and then they would basically like make it not a thing. So that would be a terrible thing. But it's not about trying to get her to the presidency. It's trying to get a bigger megaphone in the hands of a party that is actually going to put the people ahead of profit, that's actually going to listen to what the people want and try to make those things happen. So, like,
Yeah.
vote, vote,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Hey, I have always said, and I'll keep saying it, the laws that we see at the state level, at the local level, they are the most consequential to our everyday lives. They impact us the most. Like, even if the top of the ticket has got you in a funk and you just can't really like bring yourself to vote for someone at the top of the ticket, there's still so many things underneath going all the way down the ballot, especially if you think to yourself that you really care about, criminal justice reform. Know that you vote directly for the district attorney a lot of times in the community that you're in, or your local sheriff. These are people who have direct access and direct power over the laws in your local area. So it's incredibly important to be, aware of who these people who are running in your local areas. Don't forget to register to vote early, to vote by mail, whatever you got to do. Just make sure you vote in some way. EK, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Your first time on here. Where can people find you at online if they want to follow some of your content?
It's at What's Good English. I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. What's Good English, you'll find me there. Talking about something. I got something to talk about always.
All right, everyone. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more in the future, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching this video of Independent Thought. If you liked the conversation, please go ahead and give the video itself a like, and be sure to subscribe for future episodes on